Coronation Street viewers are set for a huge confrontation at the bistro next week when Sarah Platt attempts to gather information about Theo Silverton from his former wife Danielle, but Todd's abusive partner catches her red-handed. As those closest to Todd search for a way to free him from Theo's control, focus shifts to Theo's past before he came to Weatherfield. Gary Windass is the one who points out that Danielle, having been married to Theo for years, might have suffered similar treatment. Sarah then sets up a meeting with her, but the situation spirals when Theo and Todd arrive and see them together. No one can fault Sarah for wanting to help, but her plan backfires badly, as Theo is bound to react angrily. After trying to keep her suspicions quiet, she accidentally exposes herself and makes Todd's abuser even more volatile and threatening. With most of Todd's friends now convinced that his husband is dangerous, Sarah feels she can't just stand by. After talking with George Shuttleworth, who shares his worries about Theo and his concern over Todd's silence, she decides to step in. Sarah waits outside the flat until Theo leaves, then begs Todd to let her come in so they can talk. Though hesitant, Todd eventually allows her inside, but the moment is short-lived when Theo unexpectedly returns. What Todd's loved ones fail to grasp is how deeply Theo's behavior has affected him. Todd is overwhelmed, living in fear and struggling with intense self-doubt. Even though Sarah genuinely cares about him, he feels trapped and unable to escape. Sarah chooses to contact Danielle after speaking with Todd at the flat. His fearful reaction when Theo comes back confirms everything she was worried about. That's what pushes her to follow Gary's suggestion and arrange a meeting with Danielle. Now the question remains, what will Danielle reveal about her past with Theo, and what will happen now that Theo realizes Sarah is starting to uncover the truth? Coronation Street viewers have shared their shock about Mal Roper's future in Weatherfield after once again being disturbed by his latest outburst. Fans of the ITV soap will remember that the newcomer made an unexpected entrance earlier this year when he set his sights on Roy Cropper. The cafe owner was taken by surprise when the stranger turned up at Roy's rolls and suddenly attacked him, believing he was involved with his wife. Mal later revealed that he was married to Alice, who had been exchanging letters with Roy after he joined a scheme that connects people with prisoners for correspondence. Roy continued writing to Alice, thinking her son was in prison, and they eventually arranged to meet. When he couldn't attend, he sent her flowers instead, which pushed Mal to confront him face to face. Since that explosive introduction, Mal has continued to create problems for Bernie Winter after developing an unwanted attraction towards her. This followed his clash with Roy, when he was later seen drinking at the Chariot Square Hotel as Bernie arrived, struggling with grief after losing her son-in-law, Billy Mayhew. The two ended up in a hotel room together, where they drank and took drugs. Mal tried to make a move, but Bernie rejected him, reminding him that she is married to Dev Alahan before leaving. Despite this, Mal has refused to leave her alone, finding reasons to stay in Weatherfield while convincing himself there is a connection between them, which has led to increasingly troubling behavior. At one point, it seemed his obsession had come to an end after he was believed to have been attacked. However, as often happens, the situation only became worse. Recently, Mal intensified his efforts to win Bernie over, taking a far darker approach. Bernie was later shown going to his hotel room after he pressured her into meeting him and sleeping with him in exchange for dropping accusations against her husband, Dev Alahan, whom he claimed had attacked him. In reality, both Bernie and viewers know that her son, Kit Green, was responsible for the incident. As she approached the door, Ryan Connor watched nearby, clearly worried. Once inside, Bernie tried to stall by drinking wine and eating a cheese and onion sandwich, hoping to discourage him from getting close. She made it clear that her only reason for being there was to protect her family, but Mal insisted that she would eventually return his feelings. The situation quickly worsened as his temper flared, accusing Bernie of delaying things. When she suggested he was still hurt from his failed marriage, he lashed out, claiming she was being patronizing and had been misleading him from the start. His insults became more intense, and as his behavior grew increasingly unstable, Bernie feared for her safety. She grabbed a corkscrew, holding it as protection just as Ryan Connor rushed in and restrained Mal, urging her to contact the police. Bernie managed to strike a deal, convincing Mal to drop the accusations against Dev, which he agreed to before she left in tears. During a rare Sunday episode on March 29th, Mal later appeared on the street to make it clear to Bernie that he had no intention of leaving. He showed up at her house and revealed that he knew her son, DC Kit Green, was behind the attack that led to his hospital visit. He also told Dev about what had happened in the hotel room and warned that he would be waiting for the moment her marriage falls apart. Viewers are now puzzled by Mal's continued presence in Weatherfield, especially since he hasn't been mentioned among the potential victims in an upcoming murder storyline expected to unfold later in April. Coronation Street's George and Gary make a plan to rescue Todd in an early ITVX episode as Theo's downfall draws closer. This report includes spoilers for Monday, March 30th episode, which hasn't aired on television yet, but is already available to stream online. Theo Silverton's abusive behavior towards Todd Grimshaw has finally come to light, and Todd's friends and family are now focused on helping him break free. In recent scenes, Todd was shocked to learn that Theo had secretly arranged for them to marry. The fact that Todd hadn't even been invited raised serious concerns for George Shuttleworth, who began to suspect that Todd hadn't had any real control over the situation. Sadly, those suspicions proved true when George overheard Theo angrily speaking to someone he believed was Todd, not realizing it was actually George listening. When Todd later returned home and Theo realized what had happened, he attempted to brush it off as humor, but George wasn't convinced and urged Todd to leave and stay with him instead. Despite everything, Todd still has feelings for Theo, and when Theo suggested relocating to Ireland, Todd agreed to go with him. George, unaware of the full plan to take Todd away from Weatherfield and isolate him from support, remains determined to intervene, with Gary Windis backing him up. When Todd didn't arrive at work, a worried George turned to Gary, and the pair decided they needed to step in. Gary quickly summoned Theo to the builder's yard, where he dramatically packed away his tools. Making it clear he refused to continue working with him, Gary accused Theo of being both a bully and a coward and warned him that he wouldn't let things slide. Theo appeared unfazed, continuing to insist that his relationship with Todd was perfectly fine. While Gary kept Theo occupied, George went to see Todd, making one final plea for him to leave. When Todd declined, George handed him an emergency bag filled with essentials in case he needed to escape quickly. Later, Theo returned home and, after checking the doorbell camera and seeing George had visited, questioned Todd about their conversation. Todd reassured him that he had handled the situation and reminded him that they would soon be leaving, so George wouldn't be an issue. The big question now is whether Todd will follow through with the move or find the strength to accept George's help and walk away. With Theo's exit from the street approaching, it remains unclear whether he and Todd will actually leave together or if events will take a darker turn. There is also the possibility that Theo could be the mystery victim discovered by Betsy Swain in the upcoming storyline. Coronation Street is broadcast on weekday evenings at 8:30 p.m. on ITV1, and episodes are also available to stream on ITVX.